Hey, and we are the Coalition Loud and Proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media. We're here on the steps of, well, what we lovingly refer to as Halitosis Hall, your Rhode Island State House. The swells, the politicians, the coat hangers, the ne'er-do-wells, they're all up the street celebrating their newfound Irishness. We'll just let that hang out there. But a group of Democratic Socialists, if I get that straight, got together this afternoon to organize a protest against the war in Ukraine. Folks who follow the coalition know that our editorial stance is corresponds to that. We regard this as largely a proxy war that's been inflicted upon the Ukrainians and eventually probably a good part of that part of the continent. It's complex. Some would argue that American foreign policy over the last, well, since the Clinton administration really, has been designed to create just this moment where, well, we'll let you listen to the speeches. I'm with, and your full name again, sir?
Peter Sense.
Peter Sense. He's a postdoc at Brown University. Wicked smart. I wanted to ask you a little bit about one of your comments. You spoke to the crowd here, and it was a good turnout considering the logistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of doing it right next to the St. Patrick's Day Parade in newly found Irish Providence. But you talked about the right taking over, if you will, the anti-war movement, and I was struck by that. What did you mean by that?
Right. So there was last month there was a small anti-war rally, which included some names that I would consider, to be on the left, Jimmy Dore, Max Blumenthal, and they teamed up with a team of some other right-wing political organizations to come together and have an anti-war protest. Some of the right-wing organizations are probably not someone's like that Libertarian Party, which it's not inconceivable that you would work with them on an anti-war campaign. But some groups were overt or even covertly far-right, white nationalist, Nazi sympathetic organizations, and to actually bring about a strong anti-war movement that's actually going to bring pressure on the United States government and the U.S. ruling class. It needs to bring in people from all kinds of walks of life, a multinational mass movement against war, and that in the short term, maybe they'll get 1,000 people at that anti-war protest, but in the long term, they're going to alienate the black working class in this country, the LGBTQ working class, women, indigenous people, and other oppressed groups. And to have a strong anti-war movement, we can't tolerate that cooperation with some of those far right elements. And that's in terms of the activists. Even on Fox News, you'll get someone like Tucker Carlson, who's against the war in Ukraine, and he's more against it for short-sighted political reasons because we have a Democratic president.
Right.
But if this war ends and we start focusing towards China, whether Biden's still president or Trump runs again, the Fox News will start banging the drums for that war. Right.
Politics of convenience. Is more of an anti-Biden statement than it is any sincere. I'm interested in your perspective, and we've only got a couple minutes, and I apologize for that. Sure. There's going to be a shock ending to this, but I'm interested in your perspective on the libertarian involvement and why you would lump them in with, and I'll say kind of casually collate them with the far right.
Well, if maybe I misrepresented that I lumped them in. What I was trying to say is that there were some groups in there that, while I might not agree with them politically, I don't think it's off limits to collaborate with them on certain things that we see eye to eye.
Fair enough.
And I think that if it was just the inclusion of like the Libertarian Party, I don't think I would have an issue, and I don't think it would have any long-term damage to the anti-war movement. I was trying to say that it's been represented by some that it's like a broad, all across the political spectrum, and I would say that it's okay for certain groups, maybe the libertarian parties, who were united on them with some anti-war, some FBI, other government
Criminal
agencies,
justice issues,
criminal
yeah.
justice issues.
Reform.
And I say on those things, I wouldn't put those off limits. It's
That's
really
fair.
it's really collaborating with the very far right and
Mm-hmm.
the white nationalist organizations that's very damaging.
All right, so this is where I go for the hook, and I'm
Yeah.
glad you said that.
Yeah.
I'm on the board of directors of the National Libertarian Party. I was a sponsor of the event in D.C. I was at the event in D.C.
Okay.
And my private organization was also a sponsor of the event in D.C.
Okay.
And I just want to reflect to you that my takeaway from that, and I would say worked with, but I've been on the same stage and I've cooperated with Jill Stein on a number of occasions. Jimmy Dore was particularly provocative on that issue, and I'll send you his piece because he talks about the notion of this broad spectrum. I just want to be careful because I don't want the Libertarian Party was the first national organization to oppose the war on drugs. The Libertarian Party is working to end things like predatory solitary confinement, anti-corporate welfare, and very anti-war, provocatively anti-war, confrontationally anti-war, and ending things like the Fed, which is being used by many would argue was a precipitating factor in this most recent, I'll call it bank crisis du jour, because of their manipulation of market rate interest rates, which left banks in precarious positions financially because of what the impact those interest rates had on their investment. So you've got a predatory, I think we agree, you've got a predatory national government that exists solely for its own purposes. And I just, in the minute or so we've got left, wonder what your reaction to that is. And I apologize in a sense for popping that on you, but I thought it'd be fun.
It's fine. I mean, today, this is March 18th. In New York today, the organization I'm part of, Party for Socialism and Liberation, also with the Answer Coalition, Act Now to Stop War and End Racism. So if there's a long list of groups that have sponsored it, and one of them is a Libertarian Party organization. I can't remember if it's
right,
the Libertarian branch of New York. So I would say that even the organization I'm a part of is not opposed to working with libertarians on these issues. It's things like the Traditionalist Workers' Party or ex-members of that who were part of that protest I was referring to earlier.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of, like I said, criminal justice and the war machine, yes, obviously the Libertarian Party is one that we that on those issues we see eye to eye. And again, I tried to preface.
No.
I tried to preface.
You're
my
very
statements.
genuine.
Yeah,
you cleared it all. It's all good because you and I are going to work together in Rhode Island on a lot of overlap. I'm going to throw one piece of legislation at you just to kind of as a takeaway, and I love your reaction to it. And I'd also like to print your speech if you'd like that. I'd share that in my media outlet in its entirety, unedited, unbifurcated, whatever. But the Libertarian Party is involved in supporting. It's not a product of the Libertarian. It's something called Defend the Guard. And what that would do is, on a state-by-state level, prohibit the National Guard, and we've got about 15 seconds left, the National Guard from being deployed when there are no cases of a declared war. In other words, asking them to stay at home and asking them to attend to the needs of, people of Rhode Island. And they do a wonderful job of that. But they don't need to be overseas. They don't need to be in Ukraine.